A very good evening and welcome. This is Primetime News on TV1. Today is the 4th of August 2021. For the Newsfirst team, the voice of the people, I am Jayama Ratnayaka. Let's start off with a look at your headlines. No change in the government's organic fertilizer policy. A statement from the President's media division. Teacher and principals trade unions flock to Colombo in vehicle rally protests. Another protest commences from Kandy. 42 who engaged in the vehicle rally protest arrested. Debate on the KNDU bill postponed. University lecturers and students' unions remain defiant on allowing the bill to pass, even with amendments. Sinopharm vaccines to be administered to those above the age of 60 from tomorrow. In our top story this evening, the President's media division says the government has not decided to reverse the decision to promote organic farming in Sri Lanka.
The President's media division issued a statement today clarifying matters pertaining to fertilizer in the country. The statement noted that the policy decision to only use organic fertilizer for local agriculture purposes remains unchanged. It added that the decision will not be reversed even in the future. The statement noted that the proposals submitted by the Minister of Agriculture on the 31st of May using chelated mineral and micronutrients had received the approval of the Cabinet of Ministers. It added that the gazette prohibiting the importation of chelated mineral and micronutrients was amended in order to implement the Agriculture Minister's proposal that was approved by the Cabinet of Ministers. The President's media division pointed out that the Finance Minister then issued an operating instruction under the Imports and Exports Control Department regulations, permitting the importation of special types of fertilizer via the Department of Agriculture and other respective institutions by using a specialized license system. It added that only organic fertilizer that meets international standards will be allowed to be used for agricultural purposes in the country.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa arrived in Parliament as sittings got underway this morning. The President arrived at around 11:15 am and was welcomed by Leader of the House Dinesh Gunawardena and State Ministers Kanchana Wijesekara and Indika Anuruddha. The President entered the parliamentary chamber alongside Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. He joined the session in which parliamentarians raised questions from the relevant ministers and left at around 12 noon. Teachers and principals trade unions have decided to continue their ongoing trade union action, claiming they have not been granted a satisfactory resolution to their demands. Trade unionists representing academic trade unions arrived in Colombo on a vehicle rally this morning. Subsequently, they engaged in a demonstration opposite the Presidential Secretariat. However, the police arrested 42 protesters who were returning from the protest. The protesters commenced vehicle rallies from a number of locations including Valisara, Kadawatha, Moratuwa and Pannipitiya this morning with the intention of converging at the Presidential Secretariat. The police intervened at 2 locations and notified the protesters to halt the protest, taking into consideration the health guidelines issued as a result of COVID-19 in the island.
එබැවින් උද්ඝෝෂණ ව්‍යාපාරය හෝ පෙළපාලි උපවත් කරන ලෙසට ඔබලා ඇතුළු අනුගාමිකයන් මෙයින් නියෝග කරමි. The demonstrators made their way opposite the Presidential Secretariat in Fort, disregarding the police. Vehicular movement on the road opposite the Presidential Secretariat was disrupted during the course of the protest. additional secretary attached to the presidential secretariat met with the protesters to consider the request made by them to engage in a discussion to fulfill their demands. Bandula Gunawardena, Gamini Lokuge and JL Peris. All three of them claimed this would be resolved after being presented to cabinet. This is the third cabinet meeting. If the Salaries Commission and other agencies are rejecting this, we have to resort to discussing this matter with the President. We have arrived here for that purpose.
I will state this with responsibility. The Secretary to the President notified us to take this up expeditiously. We will take it up within 2 weeks. By 10 a.m. tomorrow,
247,000 teachers have refrained from conducting their duties. If you need 2 more weeks, we will continue this for another fortnight. If anyone is inconvenienced due to this action, you must bear responsibility for it. Why can't this be resolved after presenting it to the cabinet on Monday?
this is a matter which has aggravated for 24 years. Providing solutions to it will take a considerable amount of time. The cabinet has stuttered for 3 weeks. They have not been able to resolve this yet. We will only end this struggle when a solution is provided.
42 people, including 16 women, were arrested from multiple locations this evening on the charge of engaging in a protest disrupting the flow of traffic on the road opposite the presidential secretariat. Police spokesperson SDIG Ajit Rohana said the police have also confiscated 10 vehicles.
We detest these arrests. Is this the response of the government to the demands of the people? We are not afraid of it.
ආණ්ඩුවේ ප්‍රතිචාරය මේක නම් අපි කියනවා අපි ඒවට බය වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
The people present at the location had acted violently, disrupting the main road. Although authorities had warned them to refrain from doing so, they had disregarded the warnings. Those who were arrested will be produced before court in due course.
Meanwhile, the Educational Professionals Association, led by Venerable Ulapani Sumangalathero, launched a protest march from Kandy, demanding authorities to resolve the issues of teachers and principals. The protest march, dubbed the National Movement Against the Salary Anomalies of Teachers and Principals, got underway to collect 1 million signatures for a petition.
We are carrying out this struggle to establish an education system that is useful. The teachers should be satisfied for that. That is why we are urging for the salary anomalies to be resolved. This struggle is open for everyone. We are staging this struggle only for one objective.
The protesters ended their march for today in Kadugannava and will resume the demonstration from Mavanala tomorrow. They are expected to reach Colombo on the 9th of this month.
Meanwhile, a protest was held at the Tamuttegama town demanding a solution to the salary anomalies of teachers and principals. The protesters marched from the Mahaveli ground in Tamuttegama and proceeded through the police roundabout to the Rajina junction. The march had obstructed traffic along the Anuradhapura Kurunegala main road.
The opposition leader raised questions on the salary anomalies of teachers and principals in Parliament today.
I wish to remind Minister G.L. Piris of a statement that he made. He has said that the Education Secretary had obtained the approval of the Treasury to grant an interim allowance. I am quoting you from the 1367th page of the Hansard. Today, you say there are no funds to pay the interim allowances. How much is required to pay the salary anomalies of teachers and principals? How will these expenses be met? Does the government accept the Subodhini Committee report on the salary anomalies of teachers and principals? Will the government take steps to establish the teachers' service as an inclusive one? If not, why is it? How fair is it to exert pressure on teachers to report to work without providing them sufficient safety equipment and without completing the vaccination drive? Teachers had been conducting online lessons using electronic devices and mobile data bought through their own expenses. Has the ministry made the relevant arrangements to conduct lessons at schools?
අමාත්‍යංශය සියලු පහසුකම් සලසා තිබේද? නොවැම්බර් මාසයේ මේ ගරු සභාවට ඉදිරිපත් කරනු ලබන අයවැය
This should be resolved through the budget that would be tabled in Parliament in November. We promised to provide an interim allowance. Even the private sector has reduced salaries by 40%, but we have not reduced a single cent from the salaries of teachers and principals. The budget will be tabled in 3 months. They say that they cannot be patient for 3 months. They are insisting for this to be done regardless of the economic situation. Is this justifiable? Do the parents of these children feel that this is justifiable? Our ministry will commence discussions in a week with the current finance minister on the allocations that should be made to our ministry through the budget. It is not difficult to establish this as a closed service on a policy basis. 87% of the teachers have been given the first dose of the jab. Online education is required temporarily, but the best place to do this is at schools. The children have been affected. Therefore, the government has decided with responsibility to reopen schools with the recommendations of health officials, as the second jab will be given to teachers in August.
සෞඛ්‍ය බලධාරීන්ගේ නිර්දේශ ලබාගෙන ඔබතුමාම පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ කිව්වා අද ඊයේ නෙමෙයි 2020 දෙසැම්බර් 1 වෙනිදා පිටු අංක 1362 අතුරු දීමනාවකට දැන් ඒක ඔබතුමා අතුරු දීමනාවකට මුදල් ලබා ගත්තා කියලා. ඒ විතරක් නෙමෙයි ඔබතුමා ඒක මතු කරා. ඔබතුමා අඳෝනාවක් නගනවා කොහොමද මේවට සල්ලි කියලා. හරි. මං ගරු ඇමතිතුමාගෙන් අහන්න කැමතියි. හරි බොහොම ස්තුතියි. නෑ. ඒ ප්‍රශ්නේ ඔබතුමා පොරොන්දු වුණා එක පැහැදිලි කිරීමක් කරගන්න ඕනේ කියලා. ඔබතුමන්ලාට හැකියාව තිබුණා.
The government was able to provide tax concessions worth millions to millionaires. That is how the government lost its revenue. After losing revenue, the government is whining over the lack of funds. In December, they said that there are funds.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට සල්ලි තියෙනවා කියලා. දෙසැම්බර් මාසේ. හරි. අපි කවුරුත් දන්නවා ගිය අවුරුද්දේ දෙසැම්බර්
We know that not just our country, but the entire world has been facing a catastrophe since December. Therefore, any country is unable to implement a work plan that they formulated in December.
පිළිවෙලක් ඒ විදිහටම ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීමට අපිට නෙවෙයි ලෝකේ කිසිම රටකට පුළුවන් කමක් නැහැ. මේ හදිස්සිය වැටුප් වැඩි කරන්න කියලා කියන්නේ.
Teachers are not demanding for an immediate increment. There are reasonable demands to resolve the salary anomalies. The government must accept it on a policy basis and then pass the funds through the budget. That is the demand of teachers. Teachers took to the streets due to your mistakes. They are only receiving a wage equivalent to 1,500 rupees per day. Therefore, serve justice upon teachers.
දවසකට රුපියල් 1400 හම්බෙන්නේ. ඒ නිසා ගුරුවරුන්ට සාධාරණ කරන්න.
In more news from Parliament, State Minister of National Security Chamal Rajapaksa has said that the Sir John Kothalavala National Defence University Bill will not be debated in Parliament on Friday.
සිකුරාදා අර විශ්වවිද්‍යාලය පනත වාද කරනවද නැද්ද කියලා. තවදුරටත් මන්ත්‍රීවරුන්ට සහ රටේ ජනතාවට අදහස් ප්‍රකාශ කරන්නට අවශ්‍යයි කියලා මම විශ්වාස කරන නිසා මම එදාට ඒක ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න තව කල් අරගෙන බොහොම ස්තුතියි. නිදහස් අධ්‍යාපනයේ උදෙසා වූ සිසු ජන
Samira Koswatta, Koshila Hansamali, the members of the Students' Movement for Free Education had been arrested in connection to a protest near Jayantipura yesterday. I am happy that Minister Chamal Rajapaksa has decided to call off this Friday's debate on the bill to accept more opinions on this. I wish to propose that the bill be withdrawn completely, hold discussions with all relevant parties and take the relevant steps to protect free education and also in line with the Universities Act number 16 of 1978.
කටයුතු කරන්නට ඉදිරි පියවර ගන්නයි කියලා මම ඉල්ලීමක් කරනවා.
Meanwhile, the People's Movement Against the Militarization of Education convened a media briefing today. They said that they would not allow the KDU bill to be passed, even with amendments. This is the main point that we wish to stress. Differentiate civil and military education. That is because civil education cannot be brought under the Ministry of Defence. That is the core message of our struggle. All factions in the country are opposing this. If a cake is spoiled, it cannot be made delicious using icing. Therefore, the bill must be withdrawn immediately. We will continue our struggle until then. Meanwhile, the Administrative Secretary of the Frontline Socialist Party, Chamira Koswatta, and activist Koshila Hansamali, who were involved in a protest against the Kotalavala bill opposite Parliament yesterday, were arrested and produced before the Kadwala Magistrates Court today. Kadwala Magistrate Manjula Ratnayaka issued an order to remand the suspects until the 11th of this month. The suspects were arrested for damaging public property and causing injuries to a police officer. Police spokesperson Senior DIG Ajit Rohana said that the officer in charge of the Maharagama police had been injured in a tense situation that arose during the protest. He noted that the police officer had sustained critical injuries to his fingers.
Barricades had been set up to prevent the protesters from marching forward. The chief police inspector had lost 2 of his fingers as protesters toppled the barricades. He is receiving treatment and has undergone a surgery for his injuries.
Meanwhile, attorney at law Kamal Vijayasiri, appearing for Chamira Koswatta and Koshila Hansamali, argued that the suspects couldn't have injured a police officer as they were unarmed in the presence of around 500 police officers. The defense lawyer argued that the incident is an act of coincidence. Meanwhile, Minister of Public Security, retired Rear Admiral Dr. Sarath Virasekara visited the OIC of the Maharagama Police, Chief Inspector H.H. Janakantha, who was injured during the protest. The minister said he had appreciated the police officer for discharging his responsibilities in a proper manner. They had visited many homes suddenly between 9 and 10 last night. The police had a list of names of people who should be arrested. They had visited the houses of these people, but they could only arrest 2 people. The government has no moral right to question why the protests were held during a pandemic. If they do that, we can question them as to why they are attempting to pass a bill discreetly amidst such a situation. Why are they trying to privatize education discreetly amidst the pandemic? There are accusations that police officers were attacked. Anyone who watches the visuals of yesterday's protest can understand that this is an absurd accusation. The police have engaged in a struggle to the extent up to which it could cause a split within the government if this is taken up for debate in Parliament on the 6th. There are divisions within the government. Entities within the government are also opposing this. Do not rely on the mandate given by 6.9 million people. The 6.9 million people have now taken to the streets against the government.
ජනමතය 69 ලක්ෂයක ඉන්න එපා 69 ලක්ෂයම ආණ්ඩුවට විරුද්ධව පාට බහැලා ඉන්නේ. ඒ නිසා එහෙමනම් ජනමතය ආය උරගා බලමු.
Meanwhile, protests were staged in several areas demanding the withdrawal of the Sir John Kotalavala National Defence University Bill and to protect free education. The protest, organised by the Science Faculty Student Activist Committee and the Science Faculty Parents Association, was staged near the Lipton roundabout. A protest was held in Matra with the participation of several unions, including the Federation of University Teachers Associations and the People's Movement Against the Militarization of Education. A protest was held opposite the Kadurwala main bus stand with the participation of parents, teachers and students. Another protest was staged near the Galha junction today. It was organized by the Peradeniya University Teachers Association.
Military education and the education of ordinary people must be separated from one another. I feel that making any other amendments apart from distinguishing the two will not satisfy the Federation of University Teachers Association or any entity that is protesting against this.
The Students' Collective of the Kotalavala Defence University convened a media briefing in Colombo today.
ඇත්තටම මම
I joined the Kotalawala Defence University in 2012. Throughout the last 4 years, the day scholars and cadets at our university have been engaging in their activities together. The discipline is good.
නෙමේ ඇත්තටම එක හා සම්බන්ධ වෙලා ඉස්සරහට ගමන යන්නේ. එතකොට මේකේ ඩිසිප්ලින් වයිස් ගත්තොත් ඊටාම හොඳම මට්ටමේ තියෙනවා.
I started my degree in 2013 and completed it in 2016. There were no delays. We have wonderful memories relating to this. It created some wonderful movements in life.
සුන්දර මතකයන් සුන්දර දේවල් අපිට අපේ ජීවිතයට එකතු කරා.
මේ ඩිග්‍රී අවසානයේ කොච්චර වියදමක් පිළිවෙලක් දරන්න වෙනවද එක්ක සිස්සෙක්.
ඒක ඇත්තටම වෙනස් වෙනවා මොකද අවුරුද්දෙන් අවුරුද්දට ඒක වෙනස් වෙනවා. මට මතක විදිහට අපි ජොයින් වෙච්ච කාලේ about 1.6 million.
පොඩි මිනිස්සුන්ට මේක කරන්න පුළුවන් දෙයක් නෙවෙයි.
මුදල් නොමැති.
There is a scheme under which low-income earning students can obtain loans from state banks. They won't have to pay for their degree during the 4-year study period. The loan will cover the expenses. The students will have to repay their loan upon getting themselves employed following the degree program.
ඒ ළමයාට ඒ ණය මුදල පියවා ගන්න ක්‍රමවේදයක් තියෙනවා.
සාමාන්‍ය විශ්වවිද්‍යාලවල නිදහස් අධ්‍යාපන ක්‍රමයක් තමයි පවතින්නේ. එතකොට මේගොල්ලෝ ටිකටින් කරනවා, තමන්ගේ මත දීපත් කරනවා. ඒ වගේ නිදහස් ඒගොල්ලෝ තියෙනවා. ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ඒක කරන්න පුළුවන් තමයි. ඒ නිදහස රාමුවකට කොටු වෙලා නේද?
ළමයි විශ්වවිද්‍යාල
Students don't enter universities to go picketing. Education must be the priority. They must finish their BSc.
BSc ඩිග්‍රිය කොහොම හරි ඉවර කරන්න.
රජයේ විශ්වවිද්‍යාලවලින් ඩිග්‍රී ගත්ත කාලේ ඕගොල්ලන්ගේ ඩිග්‍රී එකයි අතර රැකියාවක් ලබා ගන්නකොට විශේෂත්වයක් ඕගොල්ලන්ට දැනෙනවද?
ඒකට
The speciality is the discipline. There is discipline. The studies run parallelly to other universities.
විද්‍යාලය වලට ඒ පැරලල් යන දැනුම
සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම දැන් කියනවානේ දැන් මේ KDU එක හොඳයි කියලා. වෘත්තීය සමිතියේ මේ විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයයි පාරට බයි.
සමහරක් වෙලාවට අතලොස්සගේ දේශපාලනික බලපෑමකට වෙන්න පුළුවන්.
ඒකෝර දැන් මේ පනත සංශෝධනය වෙන්න ඕනේ අයි කියන්නේ මේගොල්ලන් දැන්.
ඒ පනත සම්බන්ධ
We won't comment on the bill. We don't want to get involved in it.
ඉතින් අපි ඒක ගැනට මැදිහත් වෙන්න කැමති නැත්තන්නේ.
A debate centering parliamentarian Rishad Badiuddin arose in parliament today.
According to the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act, the Speaker must be notified when a parliamentarian is arrested in this manner. If such a notification is not made, that is a breach of privileges that will affect both factions. When we come to power one day, we too can do the same thing.
The Honourable Speaker, based on the powers vested with him, has provided clear decisions. If an investigation into an MP has been launched and that is only leading up to more investigations, parliamentarians should know to uphold the dignity of Parliament. Therefore, one should be clear of committing crimes or aiding crimes even remotely. You have allowed the parliamentarian to attend sittings.
එතුමා අත්අඩංගුවට බව මට ලිඛිතව දන්වලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒ පරීක්ෂණය තවම යන බව තමයි මට දන්වලා තියෙන්නේ.
මන්ත්‍රීවරයෙක් අත්අඩංගුවට ගත්තා බව ඔබතුමා දැනුම් දෙන්න ඕනේ මොකද හේතුව කියලා. මොකද හේතුව?
පරීක්ෂණ සඳහා අරගෙන තියෙන්නේ.
පරීක්ෂණ වලට මිනිස්සු අහලා තියන්න බෑ. හේතුවක් තියෙන්න ඕන. ගිය පාර අපි අත්අඩංගුවට ගත්තේ කතානායකතුමා දැන්.
When we were arrested, the Speaker was not notified. We were remanded straight away. You might not recall that. It does not matter if he is a parliamentarian at the British Parliament. No one can sexually abuse 13-year-olds. You are representing that. You say that Rishad has been purged from the party, but in Parliament it is a completely different stance. What is this two-faced policy that you are following? There have been many precedents in this country. None of them have committed a similar act to a parliamentarian before.
රිෂාඩ් බදුර්දීන් මන්ත්‍රීතුමා නැගිටලා කියන්න ඔබතුමාගේ ප්‍රශ්නේ.
ගරු කතානායකතුමනි මට ජොනි කතානායකතුමනි මට පොඩක් විනාඩියක් දෙන්නකෝ ජොනි කරුණා කරලා ඔබතුමාගේ ඉතාමත්ම ගෞරවයෙන් ඉල්ලනවා න්‍යාය පත්‍රය අනුව වැඩ කටයුතු කරගෙන යන්න කියලා. දැන් 11:40යි.
ඔබතුමාට ප්‍රකාශයක් කරන්න තියෙනවද?
ජොනි විනාඩියක් දෙන්න.
ඉක්මනට කියන්න.
ජනාධිපතිතුමාත් ඉන්නවා ගරු අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමත් ඉන්නවා. මාව අත්අඩංගුවට
The President and the Prime Minister are here. I was arrested on the 24th of April. Inquiries were carried out for 5 days. I have been locked up for 97 days. I am only allowed to leave to go to the washroom. But no inquiry has been carried out into this. I am not lying. You can see for yourself if you wish. Dear President, when I questioned the OIC the reason for my arrest, I was told that it was for a 1.5-minute phone conversation with my ministry's additional secretary, Bala Subramaniam. Mr. President, there is no other reason for this.
කතා කරපු එකට තමයි මාව ඇරස් කරලා තිබ්බා කියලා කිව්වා. වෙන කිසිම කාරණයක් නැහැ ජනාධිපතිතුමනි. වෙන කිසිම කාරණයක්
හරි
නැහැ.
ඔබතුමාගේ විනාඩි දෙක ඉවරයි. විනාඩි දෙක ඉවරයි. ඔබතුමාට ජනාධිපතිතුමා මුණ ගැහිලා කියන්න. කිව්වනේ දැන් කිව්වා. දැන් ප්‍රකාශ කරානේ. ඕකට හරියන්නේ නැහැ. නෑ දෙන්නේ නැහැ. විනාඩි දෙකක් දුන්නා. විනාඩි දෙකක් දුන්නා.
දැන් මෙතුමා කියනවා බාලසුබ්‍රමණියන් විනාඩියක්මාර කතා කරුවා කියලා. බාලසුබ්‍රමණියන් කොහෙද ඉන්නේ කියලා අහන්න. බාලසුබ්‍රියන් රට බැනලා. බාලසුබ්‍රියන්
බොහොම ස්තුතියි රිෂාඩ් බදුදීන් මැතිතුමා අද මේ අවස්ථාවේදී
all of you know that Rishad Baduddin has been imprisoned for political reasons. Submit a charge sheet or release him. The Speaker promised us that he would discuss the matter with the relevant officials and announce a decision to Parliament.
ලබා දෙන්න කියලා අපිට පොරොන්දු වෙලා තියෙනවා. රිෂාඩ් බදුදීන් හෝ කවුරු හෝ සම්බන්ධයෙන් කටයුතු කරනකොට ඒ කිසිම දේශපාලන බලපෑමක් නැහැ.
There is no political influence when taking action against Rishad or anyone else. Some people are arrested based on the investigations that are being carried out into the April 21st attacks. We have submitted the relevant reports to the Attorney General. We will act based on the Attorney General's advice. I wish to state that there is no political interference into this.
Former parliamentarian Ranjan Ramanayaka was escorted to a funeral in Negombo by prisons officials today. Former parliamentarian Ranjan Ramanayaka was escorted to a private funeral parlour in Negombo to pay his last respects to his aunt this afternoon. Ranjan Ramanayaka was escorted back to prison amidst tight security by security officials after paying his last respects. The Attorney General has informed the Colombo Permanent High Court Trial at Bar that the charges against former Navy Commander Vasantha Karannagoda would not be carried forward.
Former Navy Commander Vasantha Karannagoda is the 14th suspect in the case filed by the Attorney General on charges including abduction and enforced disappearance of 11 youth from Colombo. Senior State Counsel Janaka Bandara, appearing for the Attorney General, told the bench that the Court of Appeal has ordered that no further action be taken on the charges against Karannagoda until it examines and delivers a final ruling on an appeal filed by the suspect. He added that the appeal will be called up on the 30th of August and that the Attorney General's position will be communicated to the Court of Appeal on that day.
Sri Lanka recorded 2,543 new COVID-19 infections today, the 4th of August. Accordingly, the country's total caseload has risen to 318,755.
This was the situation earlier as well, and not just due to COVID-19. It is difficult for us to deal with the spike in cases. That is why we are dealing with alternative options. Cases and deaths resulting from COVID-19 continue to climb worldwide, mostly fueled by the highly transmissible Delta variant, which has spread to 132 countries. The total number of COVID-19 cases worldwide has exceeded 200,466,000. According to the World Health Organization, infections have increased in every region of the world. The WHO has blamed the rise of cases on increased social mixing and mobility, the inconsistent use of public health and social measures, and inequitable vaccine use. Meanwhile, the Minister of Health engaged in a sudden inspection tour on the COVID-19 treatment facility at the Ragama Hospital.
ඉතින් පසුගිය දවස්වල සමාජ මාධ්‍ය අදාළවලත් අපි දැක්කා මේ වාට්ටුව
In the past few days, we saw footage on social media believed to be from the ward treating COVID-19 cases at the Ragama hospital. We held talks with the hospital director to allocate more wards for the treatment of COVID-19 cases. If there is a congestion, we have asked to use more wards to treat COVID-19 patients. At a time of a national and global catastrophe, we will remain committed to provide the maximum treatment facilities for the people.
The University of Sri Jayawardhanapura has said it believes that the Delta variant can be considered as the most dominant strain in Sri Lanka. We have the resources to conduct gene sequencing to identify COVID-19 virus strains. Therefore, we can obtain a clear idea of the Alpha or Delta variant. We intend to hand over a report on this to the Director General of Health Services by Saturday or Sunday. We can observe that the Delta variant is spreading rapidly. Our initial observations are that the Delta variant is now the dominant strain in Sri Lanka.
We
analyze the deaths that are being reported. We have now observed that most deaths are of people above the age of 60 and those who had various ailments. Unfortunately, some deaths occur otherwise. It is important to protect an infected patient. The number of cases may arise in the future. People of high-risk groups must obtain the vaccine. 297,314 people had received COVID-19 vaccines yesterday. Army Commander General Shavendra Silva said that Sinopharm vaccines will be administered to those above the age of 60 at the Colombo National Hospital, Kalubovila, IDH and Avisawella hospitals.
The Samagi Janabalawegaya donated medical equipment to the Jaffna Teaching Hospital under their Vipakshen Husmak program today.
A kidney dialysis machine was donated to the hospital to be used in the treatment of kidney patients. The machine was gifted by opposition leader Sajid Premadasa to the Deputy Director of the Jaffna Teaching Hospital, Dr. Sri Bhavananda Raja. A group including parliamentarians from the Samagi Janabalawegaya were present at the occasion.
අද දින යාපනයේ රෝහලට ලක්ෂ 23ක් පටිනා kidney dialysis machine එක.
Today we donated a kidney dialysis machine. We hope that we will be able to distribute more medical supplies within our capacity under the Vipakshen Husmak program, not just to the Jaffna Teaching Hospital and other hospitals in the area, but also to the ones located in other parts of the country.
අපිට පුළුවන් ආකාරයෙන් Vipakshen Husmak සටහන යටතේ අපට ලබා දිය හැකි උපරිම සෞඛ්‍ය උපකරණ ආධාර ඉදිරියට ලබා දෙන්නට අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
The initiative, launched under the leadership of opposition leader to provide medical equipment for the people amidst COVID-19, will benefit people. The World Health Organization has warned that kidney patients are at a high risk of contracting COVID-19. Therefore, the medical equipment that we are donating today will be beneficial to the people and the patients.
Still in local news, journalists questioned the Minister of Mass Media Keheliya Rambukwalla on the cabinet approval granted recently to draft laws in order to regulate social media. This was during a discussion on Twitter Spaces on the official handle of the Parliament of Sri Lanka under the topic "The Role of Media for a Progressive Tomorrow."
Within 2 weeks, we'll have the final draft done by the draftsman's department, taking all into consideration. I think I gave assurance that we will not use it as a tool of the government to control and to be fancied by, the government. Again, I'll use the word iron fist. No, certainly not. But, as you know, Australia, 2 months ago, gave up a piece of legislation in order to handle the social media. So the whole world is basically looking at it. And we are not going to be an exception to it. We will also begin something very similar to it. But having said that, I would also like to have wider participation and a participatory discussions before we finalize.
Y.C. Chang, one of the owners of a land in Mullaitivu which was embroiled in controversy recently, clarified his position to Newsfirst today.
Where I resent more, where the politicians try to make chaos. They want to create a situation to say that foreigners are come. I'm not a bloody foreigner. I'm a Sri Lankan. Down and out. More Sri Lankan than you. Or anyone. I challenge them to that. It is totally unacceptable when they make accusations and they bring it in the media, in Jaffna, everywhere, on Twitter, to show the world that there is a foreign invasion there. When it is not, I would say, a citizen of Bulletin. I did not see any one of the guys I knew who was living there with us there. What I saw is these three politicians who brought guys from, Parandan and Jaffna, who stood there and were making a mistake. That's the situation. But I really resent being called a foreigner. And I'm not that. What I would like to convey, not to the Tamilian population, they like me a lot, but these politicians, to keep their agenda to themselves, you see, and not try to heave a lot of sympathy on their behalf to get their votes. Totally wrong.
The Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka held a media briefing yesterday on this year's 56th Annual Report Awards. The Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka has said it will organize its 56th Annual Report Awards competition in December this year. Companies have been invited to submit their annual reports to participate in the competition that promotes transparency, accountability and social responsibility. The media briefing of the competition was held in Colombo yesterday.
Transparency and accountability are two vital pillars, as it has bearing both at a national and international level in terms of enhancing strong financial landscape. With expectations rising from investors and other stakeholders, including shareholders, companies must remain committed to be more responsible and more transparent.
Note, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I've been Jaimal Ratnayaka alongside our sign language interpreter for tonight, Brian De Cruz. Take care, stay safe and good night.